I'm Kelsey Roberts, and I'm making this video because I believe that America will be in better financial shape when more American households are in better financial shape. I believe a lot of people who aren't in good financial shape just don't know how to thrive financially, and I believe they deserve it. And I also believe this information should be free and easily accessible. So I talked in the last video about the TSP and basics of the TSP, and I'm logged into the TSP account. Again, we want to talk about the different kinds of funds and the different options you have with funds, and the importance of actually creating a TSP account. Because what some people do is they go into MyPay and they set up a TSP contribution of whatever percent of their income, and they think they're good. You know, I'm good. I'm saving for my retirement. It gives you a warm fuzzy. But you actually have to actively manage these funds. I'm going to show you why. In your TSP, there's different funds. I'm going to start with the G, F, C, S, and I, and then I'll talk about Lifecycle Funds and what they are and how they act. So the first one is the G fund, and this is the default fund. When you just set up a TSP account on your MyPay and you start contributing, it's going to go straight to the G fund, and it stays in the G fund until you put it somewhere else. So the fund objective is to produce a rate of return higher than inflation and avoid exposure to risk. Right, and fluctuate. Basically, these are government securities, guaranteed. The thing about the G fund is just think of G as guaranteed. Guaranteed to not lose money, but it's not going to make you any either. It's going to keep up with inflation just a little better, and for every dollar you put in today, it might make you some money, but it's going to purchase the same amount as your dollars today when you retire. So that's the G fund. The G fund is the default, guaranteed not to lose money. And there's the F fund. And from top to bottom, these are they start low risk, low return, and they end high risk, high return. All right. So the F fund is a little a little higher return, and it's basically set up to. These are index funds. All right. They're managed by well, these down here are managed by BlackRock. This is a government securities fund. These are managed by BlackRock, and they're index funds. They're not publicly traded, so you have to have a TSP account to be able to contribute and earn in these funds. But they're designed to mirror publicly traded funds. So we want these to act the same, but we don't want people to have the same access. So the F fund is designed to match the performance of the Barclays Capital U.S. Aggregate Bond Index, and basically is not as low risk, low reward as the G fund, but is not high risk, high reward as these other three. The C fund is going to mimic the S&P 500. The S fund is going to mimic the Dow Jones U.S. Completion Total Stock Market Index. And then the I fund is going to mimic Morgan Stanley, Capital International, Europe, Australia, Far East. These are international funds. And so down here on the bottom, international funds, high risk, high reward. You could lose a lot, but you could really earn a lot as well. And this is all available in the menu and under investment fund, and talk about the different fund options. I'll talk about Lifecycle Funds in a minute. And then you can look and see the different fund performance. Monthly returns over the last 12 months in each different fund. Alright, average annual returns, okay, for each different fund. So this is the I fund, and I said high risk, high reward. This was 2008. It was a bad year for the TSP. Up and down. Okay. And this is in the last 12 months. I funds lost a little, gained a lot, lost a little, gained a lot, lost a little, gained a lot. Okay, and that's just how it is. And just for an example, performance of the F fund. It's still lost. All right, the gains weren't as big in the G fund. G fund, guaranteed to not lose money, but these are all tiny returns. Tiny returns. Alright, this is 0.5%. Alright, over the course of the year, this is like 0.25, so this is 0.125, 125, 125, 125, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's about 1%, maybe 1.25% there, you know, for a year. That's not very good. But this is where your money is going, and this is where it's sitting if you haven't gone in here to manage your funds. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So you go back to your account. I'm not going to scroll down because Honestly, it's none of your business what I have in my TSP. I'm going to show you a screenshot of this, but you go in here. First thing you'll do, Interfund Transfers. Okay, Interfund Transfers. If you've been contributing to your TSP for a while, but you haven't gone in here and do this, you're going to have a whole bunch of money sitting in your G fund. All right, what you'll do is you'll click on this and go to Interfund Transfers, and they'll say, well, how much of a percent of this money do you want in each fund? And you can distribute it however you want. I'll show you my distribution in a minute. And then you'll set up contribution allocations, because yeah, all the money that you put in is now not in the G fund anymore. It's wherever you want it to be, but the money that you put in is still defaulting to the G fund. So you want to go into your contribution allocations and set up a percentage of your contribution and say, I want 50% of my contribution to go in this fund, 30% of my contribution to go in this fund, etc., etc. So to show you this screenshot, there is obviously redacted information here, but you know, through contribution allocations, so when the money goes in, it goes into this is my contribution allocation. All right, I have 30% in the C fund, 50% in the S fund, and 20% in the I fund. And that adds up to 100% of my contributions. None of your business. What's in there? It's my secret. But this is, and yours will say this too, your personal investment performance for the last 12 months is at almost 25.6%. Now go look up. I challenge you. Go on the internet and try to find another 401k, another retire that's going to give you a 25.5% rate of return, your investment performance for a year. You're not going to find that. I mean, 12-15% is good numbers. This is ridiculous. Okay. Now, if I was in the G fund, this number right here would be closer to 5%, not 25.5%. Okay, and just to make it real, all right, for every $1,000 I had in my TSP on January 1st, for every $1,000, it made me $255.70. All right, that's just the money that was already in there. That's not counting the money that I contributed over this year. All right, that's just the money that was already there. And then next year, if it performs even better, you know, let's say I had $1,000. All right, well now I have $1,250 plus whatever I contributed. Well, next year, if it does this too, I'm going to make this kind of money on $1,250, and that is how. I'm not going to get into compound interest, but that's how you wind up making a lot of money over time. Okay, so this is how and why you should get into your TSP and take a look around. Now we talked about the G fund, the C, the S, the I. Now I want to talk about Lifecycle Funds. All right. Now what a Lifecycle Fund is, and you notice that I move mine around and I put mine where I want them to be. Well, a Lifecycle Fund is sort of hands-off approach, and the way that where did that go? The way that they manage it is, okay, the Lifecycle Funds, basically we're going to start off by putting a lot of your into high risk. All right, early in the fund, the Lifecycle Funds mature at certain years. So like I say, I want to contribute to this fund that matures in 2020, or I plan on retiring in 2050 or 2040 or 2030, whenever. Say this fund is going to mature this year, so at the bottom end, at the early end, in the early years of the fund, they're going to invest it down toward this end and this kind of thing. And as the fund matures, they're going to start investing and reinvesting the dividends into more secure funds, so that as it comes to maturity, as it gets to the end, you have a more stable, and actually it's set up to be more of an income type fund that you can draw on once it matures. So that's how Lifecycle Funds work. They start high risk, high reward, and they eventually mature into low risk, more secure funds. That's basically a little bit about how to manage and how to get in and manage your TSP account. One thing that I didn't mention was whether you're contributing to Roth or contributing to traditional TSP. See, there's no designation here, and if I go up here, I can look, I can see how much is in Roth and how much. But basically, once it's in here, it's treated the same, and the IRS figures it out what you owe taxes on when you actually withdraw the money in retirement. They keep track of it, but it doesn't matter. You know, if you have $5,000 in your traditional, $5,000 in your Roth, then it's going to just get thrown into the same C fund, S fund, I fund, mature the same, and then the taxes are calculated on the dividends that those particular dollars earned. So don't worry about that. It's all kind of thrown into one lump sum. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.